Hello everyone, and welcome to this video, which is in our Human Chess series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at three interesting moments from the recent Dutch Women's Championship, whilst we're waiting for it to start again tomorrow. We're going to have a look at two interesting openings and then a very interesting middle game as well. So let's start off. The first game we're going to have a look at is Maaike Keetman against Anna-Maja Kazarian. And this featured a very tricky line of the French. So that's e4, e6, d4, d5, and then bishop d3. So this is actually, it's not supposed to be a great move, but it does have a number of things that you can very easily fall into as black. And actually Anna-Maja, unfortunately for her, ends up falling right into one of the big ideas behind bishop d3. I mean, probably black's best line would be to take on e4, takes, knight f6, bishop f3. And then we've got a few ideas. c5 has been played a lot. I think bishop d6 was something that I'd thought of as black, just trying to play a quick e6 to e5, and actually knight bd7 I think is also not stupid in on that score. But yeah, it's just an unusual position with this sort of Catalan bishop pointing across to the black queen side. Yeah, you know, perfectly nice to play for one game. The big idea, of course, is that if you go something like knight f6, I just go e5, knight d7, knight f3, and I've just got a sort of ideal French Tarrasch where I haven't needed to play my knight to d2. So black played the very natural idea c5, and after e takes d5, the extremely natural queen takes d5. So it looks like black is doing really well here, because after all you're attacking the pawn on d4 and the queen is also attacking the pawn on g2. So you know that's that looks really good, but this is where the real venom of the idea comes in, because we've got the move knight c3 in this position. And what you suddenly realize is that after queen takes g2, we've got bishop e4 and the queen is actually trapped. It's not obvious. You don't expect this sort of thing to happen this early, which is why the trap is, you know, is so successful. What should black do? I mean, black's really just got to accept that that you're worse and just play the move queen d8. But it's not fantastic, really. You know, something like knight f3, knight f6, bishop f4, c takes d4, knight takes d4. Yeah, I mean, it's all right, but white's clearly got a very nice position indeed, and you know, black's actually in a sort of a standard position, but a couple of tempi down because of this queen takes d5 and then queen back to d8 again. But you know, that was basically what you needed to do, sort of say, okay, I've gone wrong already, but okay, let's just try and rely on the solidity of my typical French structure. Anna-Maja played the very risky queen takes d4, and actually the engines at this stage they're already thinking that that white is almost winning. In actual fact, it's that powerful. And again, this is the reason why this is such a successful trap. It's actually, you know, quite hard to imagine that it could be that bad, but somehow it is. So knight b5, queen d8, bishop f4, very quick development. You're combining against c7, so threatening knight c7, and this is the first big problem. You have to play knight a6 to stop knight c7, but that means that you can never play a6. So this knight on b5 is a permanent feature there, which is well, obviously, you know, it's aiming here, it's aiming here. That's not a nice place to be in. So queen e2, and now knight f6 played. Castle queenside. And now queen b6. I mean, the engines were looking mainly at this line, which was to play first of all bishop d7, which is what Anna-Maja plays a little bit later. But after knight f3 to go knight d5. That was the main idea, and yeah, just looking to try and block, I guess, the d-file a little bit. It's very, very risky, and actually what the engines were coming up here was just to give away this bishop on f4 and play queen e4, threatening to take that one, and also threatening to take this one. And after knight g6, queen b7, rook b8, queen a7, bishop e7, well, we can do various things. Dragon, I think, was taking on a6 straight away. You go queen b6. Whoa, that's a slow move there. Takes and takes. And, well, white's just a pawn up with a good position. But, you know, black's survived at least out of the opening and has got the 2 bishops, might be able to do something. I mean, my engines were winning all these as white, but, you know, obviously human games, you can always, you know, things can always happen in those. So that was the best that the engines came up with, but I mean, all the games were ending in white wins, so, you know, we're not really talking about anything too great. So after queen b6, bishop c4 played by Maaike, and bishop d7 played, and now just knight f3. And yeah, I mean, it's very hard for black to work out how to get free exactly. There's a previous game that went bishop e7, and well, there's various ideas. Bishop d6 was played by white. It's a game in England actually in 2018. Takes there, and bishop g3. I don't think it's the best way of playing, but even that was very powerful. You know, a knight came in, a bishop came in, and we took on f7, and you know, just got a big attack. So yeah, I mean, this is very difficult. Anna-Maja played the move that looks the most reasonable, castling queenside, trying to get out of it. Then Maaike found a very nice plan here, which was rook d6, whack in there. So yeah, you've got to take it because yeah, I mean, if you play something like queen a5, we've got ideas like knight a7, king somewhere, and then rook takes a6 check. Oh, let's put it on the board. Just winning something because of the discovered attack. So yeah, I mean, that's there might be even better actually, but yeah, that's probably good enough. So bishop takes d6, knight takes d6, king b8, and then this nice move, bishop a6. And essentially what you're doing, knight d5 was played, bishop e5. Bishop g3 is also possible, but bishop e5 played, queen takes, knight check, takes, knight h8, rook h8. You can see already how ruined the structure is. And then after bishop g7 and bishop e5, the idea is that if you take on g2, then we've just got bishop g3, and we're going to trap the rook with knight h4. So that was, you know, just Maaike finished it very efficiently afterwards, and you know, but obviously looking like a really good position right now as well. And but yeah, that was a very interesting plan. I mean, definitely, if you want something interesting, unusual against the French with just a little bit of trappy venom, then this move bishop d3 is well worth trying. And I've played it a few times myself in Blitz, and you know, it just works really, really well. So that was that game. The next game that we're going to have a look at is the opening of Robin Duson against Anne Haast. So yeah, this was a bit of a tragedy for the white player, for Robin. Brilliantly played game all the way through, and then just ruined at the end with a blunder that turned a complete win into a complete loss. Really very tragic, and you know, yeah, you know, full sympathy for that, and you know, hope that that Robin can recover in the next games. But you know, brilliantly done to Anna for fighting all the way and never giving up, because yeah, you know, that makes a difference, and that keeps Anna very well. You know, really well placed to fight for the title. But the opening was really, really interesting. It's funny that Anna had played the Birds opening, 1f4 yesterday, and here she played the Leningrad Dutch as black. So lots of f-pawn moving for Anna in this tournament. c6, which is the old main line, d5, e5, and d takes c6. And now, yeah, I've played this as black. Not very much, but just a little bit. And yeah, bishop e6 is the normal line. And I do seem to remember that I'd had a look at playing knight a6 as well, because it seemed like a nice idea. I mean, you know, if you go stuff like bishop e6, then your bishop always ends up getting hit with knight g5, and white takes off the light square bishop, gets the bishop pair, and it's a small advantage, that sort of thing. So I'm pretty sure that I had actually had a look at knight a6, it looked very reasonable to me. Your knight's just going to come round and grab this pawn. But I was a bit shocked by how powerfully the engines fought against it, and I was amazed at how difficult and how quickly it could get. And after knight a6 from Anna, Robin really really played very, very powerfully and very energetically to exploit just that temporary inconvenience in black's position. There's a pawn e6, but it looks doomed, but you can still use it to break open the position. And knight g5 was played, just holding on to the pawn. So queen e7, easy. Bishop f4, attacking the pawn on d6. Knight e8 played, and then e4, just opening up the center. And this turns out to be very, very difficult for black. This knight can even come into f7, for example, and grab this d6 pawn, and we've got ideas even like knight d5 just as a piece sacrifice, just to solidify this pawn on e6. And of course we've just got simple stuff like taking on f5, putting a rook on e1, and then try and get back that pawn on e6. I mean, it's really, really powerful. So Anna spent a lot of time around this place, and didn't really managed to find anything good, and that's because there isn't really anything good in the position. What the engines did manage to find was the move bishop e5, which wasn't bad. Stockfish was managing to hold this as black against Dragon, which shows that it's not completely hopeless, but only just, probably. So queen d2 takes, knight c5, queen e3, knight e6, f4 was how Dragon against Stockfish and Stockfish against Dragon went. And this is looks a little bit awkward. This pawn on g5 is very annoying. There's a big threat of a knight coming in here, and obviously the white piece is in the center of well placed, and we're just going to play h3 g4 to chase away the bishop. So it's not a very pleasant position at all. Black doesn't really have any particular counterplay. But black's probably alive in the best way there. Anna played knight c5, which is very natural, but just rook e1, another very strong move from Robin there, just teeing up on the e file. And then Anna took the decision just to sacrifice the exchange and take the pawn back. And if white sort of takes a long time about things, then it's always the same with the Dutch. These sort of things can get quite promising. You could maybe get a knight into d4, the bishop comes out, and this knight maybe comes to c7, e6. Counterplay just seems to flow. But Robin played it really strongly. Played knight g5. It's always very impressive, I find, when you get a good opening and then you keep on playing with that heightened energy to keep on making the most of your advantage. And this was very impressive. Knight d5, very good move. Takes, which is a great move because it moves that knight away from the squares that the black really wanted for it. d4 and f4. So queen d2, h6, knight e4, and now we're attacking this other weak square. d5 takes, rook d1, and bishop g4, rook c1, and it was clear that black was in huge problems, and that white was in total control. Well, the rest of the game, I won't show what happened at the end because that was really painful for white. I was watching, I couldn't, obviously. Just couldn't believe it, but still, a lot I think for Robin to be proud of. Really powerful opening play, following up an excellent opening with really powerful play, and it happens to all of us. Every one of us has lost one of those games like that, but got to take away the positives, which is how well you played before that, and just make sure that you just got to keep your blunder checking alive and alert, just until the very end of the game. Nature of chess, one bad move can just ruin 5 hours, 6 hours of great work. So that was very, very dramatic indeed. And there was a very interesting game as well between Anna-Maja Kazarian and Machteld van Foreest. We are actually going to go right into the middle game, into this position. Haha, there we are. So it was a London system, and I think I got the feeling that Machteld was struggling a little bit in the opening to get to grips with what White was doing, but somehow worked her way out of that and brought the king over to the queen side, and just started to look a lot better. But then things got a little bit weird somehow. And in this position, somehow it's you're not 100% sure. Well, who's attacking who here now on the queen side? Because Black's king is on the a file, and White's got the rook on here, and the pawn attacking a4, and of course there's a bishop attacking b5 as well. The big factor, though, the big concern for White is the fact that the queen is on h4. Sorry, that's got to be red, hasn't it, really? There's a game which Natasha and I quoted in Game Changer. It's a game between Capablanca and Sir George Thomas. It was, Hastings... I can't remember which Hastings it was, 33, 34, maybe a little bit later. But it was a game that Capablanca lost to Sir George Thomas, quite extraordinary. The Capablanca loses a game, but also to that opponent, because he had a very good score against him. But the key point was it was a game where Capablanca somehow got his queen out of play, and that just had a huge effect on the rest of the position. Simply not having the most valuable piece contributing that much made all sorts of tactics possible. All sorts of squares became open and weak. And well, this is really White's big problem in this position. The queen's feels like it's several moves away from doing anything useful at all. And this is really where this is why White's actually got to be way more careful than Black. So Anna-Maja played the very natural move, bishop takes b5. Actually, that's quite a big mistake. White really just had to run with the king, go over to e2. And after a move like queen b7, go queen h3. And you can see it taking shape, right? King f1, queen g2. And then we're sort of looking sort of vaguely normal, in the position. And it shouldn't be bad at all for White. Bishop b5, I mean, so tempting, and I'm sure Anna-Maja was teeing up the move that she played on her next go. But actually, after bishop b5, then apparently the move bishop b6 is very, very strong, and it's really weird to see that, because it's not the first thing that occurs to me that Black is going to be virtually winning in this position, but it seems to be the case. The big problem is, how do you defend this pawn on c3? If you go rook ec1, I go queen c5, and I'm forking e3 and b5, and the normal thing is basically rook a4, king a7. By itself, that doesn't really do anything at all. So Black doesn't worry about that at all. If you go rook ac1, of course you're no longer hitting the a file now. So just a takes b3. Queen h3, for example, to bring the queen in, we go b2 and queen c5, and we're just hitting everything here. We've got a threat of b1 queen and queen takes e3 check, for example. So that's really bad. Let's have a look. After bishop b6, yeah, c4 is probably the best move. But yeah, you can understand that somehow opening up the centre when the king's on the d file and this queen is rather offside, that is very risky. So rook a4, d takes c4, bc4, and now a variety of ways. Rook cd8, king e2, bishop a5 was one idea, just with the threat of coming in with rook d2. Rook a2, bishop takes c1, and queen d6. And well, king is a little bit open, but White's pieces aren't coordinated at all, in order to be able to do anything about it. So that would have been very, very strong indeed, and to be honest, easy to miss in a practical game. I mean, it certainly didn't really, sort of work its way through into my consciousness until I'd seen a few of these engine games. So A3 was played by Machteld, and this just led to quite a turnaround in the game, because Anna-Maja unleashed this move F5, and the idea was simply that the queen's coming over to A4, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, White's threatening to get a huge attack here. Now, you absolutely had to stop this queen from getting itself organised on the A file, and e takes F5 was a big mistake. King B6 is the move, very bold king move, but the idea is that if the queen comes over, you've got a rook that can come over and deal with it. And after bishop F1, E5, queen A4, queen C6, you can just sort of absorb, this attack from black. So queen A6 check, king C7, takes. You can go B4 and you're going to lose this A3 pawn, but it's opposite coloured bishops. Black's pretty active. There's no huge danger for black, and the engines were managing to make a draw in these positions, quite easily. It's obviously it's not quite what you could have had the move before, but just means that you're still sort of safe there. One crazy thing was bishop D3 was a possibility as well. And then the engines just wanted to take b4 and then just give up the piece like this, which was quite interesting. Again, I wouldn't exactly guess that this was necessarily just even, but yeah, it is quite dangerous. I mean, obviously queen and rook and marching pawns are going to do a fair amount of damage. But yeah, this is equal, but very, very unclear. But after e takes f5, queen a4, the key thing is we've got this move b4. And that cuts off the bishop's protection of a3, and by a further stroke of mischance, after bishop a7, bishop b6 is the same, of course, we go rook a3, and the rook is protecting the pawn. So I mean, this is really, really dangerous now. The one saving grace, I think, for black, because I was assuming that this was just going to be easy win somehow. The saving grace is that actually, it's not that easy, and the way to actually push through the win was not at all obvious. What the engines were wanting here was we'll have a look at rook f7. There may be better defensive moves that can be played, but the idea is always the same. Because what the engines wanted, I mean, Anna-Maja tried to make something, with these pieces. So, tried to squeeze through on the A and B files, which, is completely natural and would definitely be the move that would occur to me first. But what the engines were trying to do, they were trying to find another attacking channel. And actually they concentrated on on the D file and the D pawn. So they just said, okay, well, this is too narrow a channel in order to force the win, so we need another entry channel. Again, we see this in AlphaZero's games all the time. I can't, lost count of the number of times I've described this scenario, that instead of trying to power through that one channel that you've got, the winning way is normally to open up another channel, and exploit your strength, your mobility and all of that in order to achieve that. And the move that the engines wanted was this lovely move, rook d1, and then after queen d6, just king c2. Rook fc7, we go bishop a6, force the rook away, and then go c4. I mean, it's really bold, right? I mean, you're stepping the king away to the side, and you're playing c4, and you're getting the rook onto the d file. But the whole idea is that with that extra bit of pressure, stuff like queen b5 check or whatever becomes much more dangerous, because black isn't just dealing with one entry channel, dealing with two in this case. And queen d7, bishop b5, and then c5, really, really strong, just shutting off this bishop on a7. And I mean, this is completely winning, and the engines finished this off very easily. But I think you can see how good this is for white. I mean, in comparison to anything in the game, the bishop on a7 is shut out, and the king looks much weaker in that way. I mean, c5 is stopping anything from blocking on b6 when you give a check. So already that's pretty big. So opening another attack channel Not trying to win on your one attacking channel, but broaden it out. That was the way that the engines were showing, and it's very very thematic for modern engines to see these sort of things so quickly. Just show you just quickly some of the rest of the game. Anna-Maja played bishop a6, queen b5 check, but somehow didn't really seem to be a good way through, and queen exchanges started rearing their ugly head here. There was a rook exchange, and then queen e4, and takes, and black was no longer worse. At the end, black ended up being a little bit better, just picking up one of these pawns, but a draw was always going to happen, and indeed did. So very, very interesting. I really like that middle game. I found it very surprising, and definitely reminded again of how important it is to I guess to involve all of your pieces in the attack, and also if possible over a broad area, because obviously when you're attacking, the big advantage that you've got often is just better mobility. So the more entry channels the opponent has to deal with, the more likely your chances of success. So there we are. Hope you enjoyed that. We're now ready, I think, waiting for the next round, which will take place tomorrow. If you like the video, why not give a Christmas spirit like, or subscribe to the channel, or even take a look at my new Chessable course, the Silicon Road to Chess Improvement, all about how to analyze with engines and lots of fantastic engine games. But otherwise, thanks very much for watching, and hopefully see you at the next video.